I wasn't going to make a video today because it's getting towards the end of my day, but I am so excited over what one of my Patreon supporters got me. A Ryrie Study Bible, the New American Standard. This is like a $78 Bible. Genuine leather. I decided I wanted this because, well, the Ryrie Study Bible is it is one of the best. Dr. Andy Woods, somebody asked him what Bible would you recommend for your followers, and he said the New American Standard or the New King James. He said that's one of the most accurate translations out there. He's got a PhD in Bible exposition, I believe it is, from Dallas Theological Seminary. So I am just so thrilled about. I'm trying to fix the. I can't. I really need this because you see, my men bought me this, the Parallel Bible, which is a pretty expensive Bible too. And I have really worn it out, as you can see here. The I don't, see the Book of Revelation's falling apart. I've been reading Revelation so much, doing research for my novel Silver Skies 1996 version, that the last few pages in here they're goners. See, so so I thought, you know what, you need a new Bible, and besides, I wanted to have this is really heavy, and like I'm doing a really in-depth study of Revelation. And I just wanted something lighter that I could, that wouldn't be. This one's pretty heavy too, but it's a little bit lighter than. It's a study Bible. The Ryrie Study Bible. He's a Charles Ryrie, I believe, is a Dallas Theological Seminary grad, and I'm not sure about that, but anyways. This is just so exciting. I am so excited. Genuine leather. It's going to have to be the way I read my Bible. So, come on, get this thing open. Here we go. Opening it up. Opening it up. This is so exciting. I actually had a Ryrie Study Bible in my 20s, but it was a hardback. And it was I think it was King James. Oh, I am so excited. I can't tell you. I just can't tell you. Oh, this looks like a wonderful thing. You know, the book of Revelation is the one book in the Bible that promises a blessing to the reader if you study it and if you honor it and you heed it. And I'm just going to tell you that as a result of studying the book of Revelation, I find that I worry less about my life. Like everybody's all hyped up about the coronavirus and about all the protests and about Loree McBride. But when I read Revelation and see how everything is going to end up, it's like I say, Jesus is in charge and he's going to win. So don't get freaked out by all this stuff happening around you. Besides, I asked Jesus if I needed to practice social distancing. And he said, nope. He said, everybody's lost their common sense nowadays. He said, the best way to stay healthy is to do the Gale commandments and use your common sense. He says, and to take your Seroquel. He says, if the CDC or anybody tries to tell you that you need to stop taking your Seroquel or that you need to disobey the Gale commandments, he says that is going to get you sick. You might say, but do you wear a mask? Jesus did say that he thinks it's wise to be polite about the fact that everybody's worried about this virus. So I did make a mask. Besides, I couldn't pay my rent or go to the bank to buy quarters if I didn't have the mask. I went out to my car today. Let me just tell you why why it benefits you to study Revelation. I went out to my car today. Well, I went out yesterday because I don't drive that much, so I started the car just to make sure that 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 I start it at least once a week so the battery doesn't die on me. And maybe it was dark and I didn't notice, but when I went to the car this afternoon to drive out to Publix and to get my quarters and to go to Sally Beauty to the person who bought me this Bible also got me a Sally Beauty gift card. So thank you, Christopher Foster. You are awesome. I can't tell you how excited I was, but I wasn't planning on making a video, but when I saw what I got, I am so excited. I'm going to really understand Revelation now. I've got all the tools I need. Well, I'm just so excited. Thank you. But when I went out to the car, my radio was missing. I don't know. I thought, has somebody been in my car and took the radio out? I mean, when I bought the car, I never used the radio, so it's not a really big deal to me, but the radio was missing, but everything else in the car seemed the same. I'm wondering if Jesus took the radio out. You might say, why would he do that? Well, for the past week, when I lay down to sleep, I've been getting these arrhythmias, these like flip-flops. And I mean, it's just the past week. I haven't changed my diet. I haven't done anything different. The only thing I can think of is it's getting really, really hot, and maybe I need to drink more water. It's possible that the Loree McBride Jesuits may be using the yeast from all the bombs they drop over my head because I inhale the yeast. They may be using the yeast to go to my heart and cause issues. So to help my body filter out the yeast, I may need to be drinking more water. I may be a little dehydrated. I think there may be a correlation between dehydration. I thought, could it be a B12 deficiency? But then why now? If I have a B12 deficiency, it may be caused because the yeast is multiplying, and I also need to go to bed earlier, so my resistance may be going down, and the yeast may be multiplying. Back onto the car radio. You say, why do you think Jesus would take the car radio out of your car? I might make a follow-up on this to let you know, but I wonder if it's possible that maybe Loree McBride was using that car radio to send radio signals to my heart to try to cause the arrhythmias. They were bad enough that they were keeping me up at bedtime, so that I just drank extra water to see if that would help, and ate some food that had magnesium. And though Jesus doesn't want me to eat food like medicine, but I did find that eating some seaweed and B12 fortified cereal did seem to help with the heart arrhythmias. So I may be suffering from a little bit of vitamin mineral deficiency, which could be leading to the arrhythmias. And if that's the case, it means I need to drink more water and be better about going to bed. It's because I'm going to bed too late. I worked so hard on my writing. Right now, I am determined to write a brilliant ending to my novel, Silver Skies 1996 version, and back onto the subject. But let me just tell you what my reaction was. When I went out to the car and I saw the radio was gone, I didn't panic. I thought, well, this doesn't surprise Jesus. He promised me he would protect my car. So I've concluded either Jesus took the radio out himself, or if it was a Loree McBride Jesuit, he allowed it because it's a Romans 8:28 situation where they might think they've done me a disfavor, or maybe they're trying to freak me out. But I never used the radio, and so it's no big deal. Who knows? I might go in the car tomorrow and the radio will be back in there. Or maybe my men actually bring the car to Church of Gale Mechanics at Church of Gale. And maybe my men took the radio out for some reason. I don't know. The car still works. The air conditioner is making some weird noise, but it could be brain control. But Jesus promised to protect my car. And let me tell you, as a result of my Revelation studies, it has made me stronger as a believer. I don't freak out. I'm able to stay calm in the midst of all the craziness. I don't freak out about the coronavirus. I don't freak out about the fact that the radio was out of my car. I locked the door. To be honest with you, it doesn't really look like a thief came in the car and took it out, because it was a clean removal. In other words, I didn't see debris. Like usually when a car thief goes inside your car and takes stuff, they're really sloppy. There's stuff all over the car. I know, because I've had this happen to me before. I've had car thieves. I had a truck once when I was married to David Schuler, and the first month of my marriage, they stole our Toyota truck, and they took the radio out and some other stuff. And thieves are messy. When they mess with your car, they're messy. So whoever this person was who took the radio out, they were clean. They didn't make a mess. The radio was just gone. The slot where the radio was just gone. So I've concluded either Jesus did it, and maybe because the Jesuits were using that to send radio signals to my heart to cause the arrhythmias, and maybe he was trying to stop that. That's a possibility. I don't know. But I know Jesus promised to protect my car. And as a result of my Revelation studies, I'm becoming stronger. My faith is increasing. Well, part of it is I believe Jesus used me to add to the canon. Or maybe I shouldn't say add to the canon, but adding to the canon, I think, is the wrong word. A more accurate statement would be that little book in Revelation 10 is now public. The one that the Apostle John, I believe the little book in Revelation 10. You see, the Apostle John, when he wrote Revelation, he was told to write the vision that he saw when he was on the Isle of Patmos, about 96 AD. And when he came to Revelation 10, the angel that gave him the vision said, I'm going to open this little book and let you know the contents, but I don't want you to write it down. I believe that little book was my Bible for Tribulation saints. So I don't know if I'd say adding to the canon, or maybe the hidden part of the canon is now public. It's the little book of Revelation 10. So I agree with the preachers that the canon is closed. However, not all of the canon has been revealed. Does that make sense to you? My Bible for Tribulation saints is the little book of Revelation 10, which is part of the canon. In other words, my Bible for Tribulation saints should be considered part of the book of Revelation. It's Revelation 10 expanded. That's what it is. I really believe that. And, it's funny, Jesus usually corrects me when I'm off. And I've been telling the world since 2017 that I feel my Bible for Tribulation saints is an addition to or an expansion of the original canon. I personally think the canon is closed, but that my Bible for Tribulation saints is the little book of Revelation 10 that John was ordered to keep quiet about. And now is the time for the world to know the contents of that little book. That little book is my Bible for Tribulation saints. So, and I've made a post about that. So the people that oppose me and that say all sorts of crazy stuff, I get some really wacko commentators underneath my videos. And these are wicked trolls. They're sociopaths or psychopaths. And I can tell that they work for Loree McBride. Because they know a lot about me that they could only know if they were associated with her, because she's got a little bit of mind reading technology, emotion reading technology, though she's a big liar. So whatever she says, you can't trust anyway. So, but I am just thrilled to death to have this. The Ryrie Study Bible is probably the best study Bible you could get. And apparently Jesus feels the same way because he allowed my Patreon supporter to buy it for me, which means Jesus was pleased that I put that on my Amazon wish list and decided to grant my wish. Thank you. Thank you, Christopher Foster, and thank you, Jesus, for using Christopher to give me your present to me. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. I've been studying the book of Revelation so deeply, and I really recommend that everybody who loves Jesus, if you said the prayer to ask him in your heart, that you need to read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation at least once. Then after you do that, you need to study the book of Revelation. There's something about studying Revelation, knowing the direction this world is going in, knowing the future. It just keeps you so calm if you're a believer. So calm. You have the peace that passeth understanding. You know, the book of Revelation does promise a special blessing to those who study this book. And you know what I think it is? I think people who understand this book and know the future have a spiritual strength that will undergird you when you go through trials. Like I said, the radio was missing from my car, and I'm calm. The coronavirus is causing craziness. I went to Publix today, and when I went to Publix, I could tell that Loree McBride had taken over the store. I'm very good at picking up on when I'm surrounded by her agents. And the clerk at customer service, I said, I'd like to get some laundry quarters. He kind of looked at me with this look like, oh, we no longer do that. But Publix has quit selling quarters. And I thought, really? Why? He said, oh, I guess there's like a supply problem. And I thought, and he looked at me like he was so happy to say that to me. Like I could tell he was a Loree McBride Jesuit. And I thought, well, I said, Publix has lost my business. I will not be shopping at Publix anymore. Goodbye. Let me tell you something. They're too expensive and they're crazy. When I went to them about 2 months ago, I normally buy about 12 gallons of water because I don't like to shop a lot. And you would think that if you really cared about me not getting coronavirus, you would be glad that I don't like to shop a lot. He said, we got a limit. You can only get 2. This was like 6 weeks ago. Publix is buying into all of Loree McBride's garbage about the coronavirus. Like right now, Ron Paul says that, you know what I think is going on? She's worried about Trump actually supports me and as U.S. president and as empress. And so she wants to bring Trump down because he really did. I think in his heart of hearts, Donald Trump would like to enforce my conspiracy law. But so she's got the whole world going crazy with her nonsense. Anyways, I am so thrilled to have this Bible. Thank you so much. When I went to Publix, and so I was thinking Walmart quit selling quarters about a year ago. Publix quit selling laundry quarters. I've got a laundry machine where I have to use quarters. So I thought, well, Jesus, this is what I said. I said a prayer to Jesus. I said, Jesus, I think now's the time to go visit that credit union down the road and see if they'll sell me some quarters. So I went to the credit union, and the people there were so nice. They did require me to wear a mask, so it's a good thing I had a mask. I went into the credit union, and then I discovered that I even forgot to bring the money for the quarters anyway, so it didn't make any difference. Well, the Publix and Sally Beauty are right next to each other. So I went to Sally Beauty, and they were out of lots of stuff. And Jesus has ordered me only to shop in store, in person. He says, you cannot shop online anymore, gal. So I thought, so I went there and they were out of the hair color that I normally use. So I'm going to have to use light ash blonde. I normally use dark ash blonde. So my hair might be a little lighter next time I color. That's okay. I look good with lighter color. So I cut and color my own hair. You know, let me just tell you, back in 2015, after Jesus kind of chewed me out because I wasn't doing his Gale commandments about only spending money on food and bills, I said, Jesus, I need a haircut. And I said, do I have your permission to go to a beautician? My hair is getting really long and scraggly looking. And Jesus said, nope. He says, you are not to go to a beautician anymore. And at first I thought, oh, that's so mean. How could Jesus say that to me? But you know what? Let me tell you what happened. So I was forced to learn how to cut. I always knew how to color my hair. That's a piece of cake. My mother's a beautician. She taught me that. But cutting was, like, oh my God, I can't cut my own hair. Guess what? Sometimes you can do stuff you don't think you can do. So I admit it's taken me a couple years, but now I'm pretty good at it, man. Look at this. I mean, look at that. Look at that. You know what's happened to me? I have become so good now at cutting my own hair, and that now my hair looks better than it ever did when I went to the beautician. Well, I had problems when I went to beauticians. Jesuits love to get my beautician. Like the last beautician I had, they actually kidnapped him. They cut off his arms and they threw him overboard off a yacht when he was vacationing in Mexico and replaced him with a clone. And when I went to that beautician to get my hair cut, he deliberately butchered my hair. He gave me the most awful cut. I mean, it was terrible. I made a video about it back in 2012. And the Jesuits were saying, oh, you're so vain. You worry about your hair. You shouldn't worry so much about, they're the ones that are vain. They accuse me of being vain for being embarrassed to be in public with this horrible cut he gave me when they're the ones who gave me the cut. The ones who are so Jesuits, if you're not vain, then why did you attack my beautician? But now let me tell you something. I don't have to worry. That's never going to be a problem for me anymore because now I know how to cut my own hair. It took me a couple years, but hey, man, I cut my hair now better than the beauticians do. No, I don't need the beauticians. So this was a Romans 8:28, man. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is Jesus knows what he's doing. And studying the book of Revelation, knowing the future, my faith in Jesus is so strong now, it's going to really take a lot for those Jesuits to shake it. They don't like it. They don't like it. I feel like King David did fighting Goliath, man. It's like, is there not a cause? If isn't God on my side? So, folks, let me tell you, what should be your response to the coronavirus? Chill. Don't just be cool, man. Just be cool. Yeah, go ahead and wear the dumb mask, And they tell you, oh, don't touch the mask. You touch the mask, you're going to get sick. Just chill. Just put the mask on so that you can get inside the store to do your business or whatever you have to do or pay your rent. But you don't have to do all the crazy stuff they tell you. And be polite. I mean, let's just put it this way. I've always been considerate about germs. Always. Like even before all this craziness started, I would cough like this. I wouldn't cough in people's face. And, be polite. But that's the way you should be all the time. And go ahead and wear the mask. You might want to get one with cotton fabric, kind of like the one I made, one made out of cotton bed sheets so that you can breathe through the thing, you know. But and I hear this stuff saying, "Oh, if you wear it, you're gonna get sick." Yeah, don't. Just chill, folks. You know, just wear it. Just wear the mask, because there's some places that won't let you in the store if you're not wearing one. So just wear the mask to keep everyone cool and to be polite, but don't freak out about it. You don't need to wash your hands like, you know, just chill. This, you know, when I study the book of Revelation, there are going to be pandemics during the tribulation. Jesus said that what I and my men are going through now is what it's going to be like for the tribulation saints. There are going to be pandemics in the tribulation. And it appears from my Bible study that they're going to be government orchestrated. In other words, the Antichrist and his government will orchestrate the pandemic on purpose so they can control everybody. And that's what's happening with this one. But chill. I'm running for president. And if my conspiracy law is enforced, we're going to be able to take care of those bad players, the Loree McBride Jesuits, and just chill. And Jesus did say that the economy is going to bounce right back. I'm not sure how he's going to pull it off or when it's going to happen. And I know some of you have lost your jobs. And if you have, contact my men at galesmen@yahoo.com. But remember this. I think everyone should study Revelation and the Bible, because knowing the future, knowing how it's all going to end, helps you to have a proper perspective about what you're going through right now. I don't lose any sleep over this coronavirus. I don't lose any sleep over the fact that my rent went up about $75. Actually, I'm paying more than that because I'm doing month to month, because Jesus doesn't want me to pay. He didn't want me to sign a year contract. So I guess I'm moving, but I'm not worried. I've been here before, and I know my Lord is reliable. I don't worry about the radio being out of my car. Jesus said, he said, I got it covered, Gail. I believe you, Jesus. Who knows? Maybe Jesus was the one who took the radio out. It'd be nice to be able to go to bed without my heart going flip, 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 flip. Loree McBride apparently wants to have her enemies on lockdown, though it's okay for her followers to go out and riot and take down statues and all that stuff. And those people should be arrested. I agree with Trump on that. Especially if they're Loree McBride Jesuits. There was another thing I wanted to cover. I've been getting some really brazen and idiotic comments underneath my videos. And I think these are all Loree McBride agents. But I would just like to say that Brent's in court fighting for me. And right now, I do not want to communicate with him like somebody's saying, "Oh, why don't you get a photograph of your men inside of Church of Gael? We would just love to see what the inside of the spacecraft looks like." Oh, they don't care about that. They think that I'm going to contact my men and my men won't be able to give me the photograph. Well, actually, they may not. I don't think at Brent Spiner's Skype, he's saying do not disturb. When I see that do not disturb sign on his Skype, I always honor. I am in submission to my husband. He was on Skype every day for about a week, and I never even bothered to talk to him. You say, "Boy, you mustn't have a very good relationship with him if he was on Skype and you didn't even want to talk to him." No, I don't. He was talking to me brain to brain. And he said, "Don't bother me right now, Gail." He said, "Because we got a lot of complicated legal stuff going on, and it might invalidate some of the evidence." So I thought, okay. I said, "That's cool, Brent. You know, you and I, we have great brain to brain going on here. That's cool." So I'm not going to contact him right now. The only people who have a need for me to contact him are my followers who are grasping at straws because their lies are being exposed and they're losing in court. And they're going to try to flip the case in Loree McBride and my family's favor I've got a very wicked sister named Sandra Metcalf, who I believe is a full-fledged sociopath. And they're trying to influence me to. Hey, I'm going to tell you something. I don't listen to trolls, and you trolls are not going to boss me around. You're not going to tell me what to do, and I'm not going to listen to your stupid advice, and I'm going to ignore your stupid comments most of the time. Though they're kind of hard to ignore because they'll say stuff hoping that people will read the comments and get a wrong impression. So sometimes I have to deal with what they say. And here's something they're saying, oh, the reason you don't ask your men for a photograph of their quarters inside Church of Gale is because you know deep inside that they don't live on a Church of Gale spaceship. Oh. Oh, like I'm really worried about this. Let me tell you something. Like I said, Brent was on my Skype, and I didn't even bother to say hello or talk to him. I just didn't want to bother him because I know Terrence Jenkins already told me he's in court. They're in court fighting my wicked family and Loree McBride, who want to run my life. They'd only be happy if they killed me, locked me up in a psych ward, or had me out on the streets. My sister is so jealous of me. I'm so ashamed of her. I'm not going to listen to anybody who works for her or any troll who works for her or who I think might work for her. And she's BFF with Loree McBride, which tells you right off the bat she's as wicked as hell. I am really sad to report this, but I do believe that my sister Sandra Metcalf is going to go to hell. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if she's going to stay there, but I think that's where she's headed. Yeah. My mother's going to go to heaven, but she probably won't have any crowns. Yeah. Jesus already said my mother's going to heaven. Maybe she'll get right at the end of her life. I don't know, because Jesus said she's going. In fact, she's going to be living in my stepdad's house. My stepdad's up there. So, yeah, Brent's in court fighting for me, and if I communicate with him outside of brain-to-brain communications, it could taint the evidence. Unlike Loree McBride, I always respect Brent's space. I'm never lonely. I have Jesus, and Brent is mine for eternity. You know, there is a song called Love is a Many-Splendored Thing. It's the April rose that only grows in the early spring. Love is nature's way of giving a reason to be living, the golden crown that makes a man a king. That's my relationship with Brent. I am just in awe of how much he loves me. He loves me as much as Jesus loves. That my heart 24/7 all year round is floating in the clouds. I have the most awesome man in my life. And the relationship is so solid that we can give each other long bouts of silence and everything is cool. It's cool. We're not worried. And if you want to see how I responded to Brent's album of love songs for me when he made Old Yellow Eyes back in 1991, go to the webpage, the link that I have underneath this video, and just look at the picture there. You can see true love written all over my face. And that's why this relationship that I've had with Brent Spiner has lasted for 30 years. Brent is a Myers-Briggs INFJ, and he needs alone time to ponder about life. I always give him his space to ponder because I need some alone time too. I'm an INFP. So being a fellow INF Myers-Briggs type, I understand that us introverts, sometimes we just need time alone. We don't want to be bothered. We just want time alone. You know, as a married person, you need to give your spouse space. Even though I've been married, so I know, because I had a spouse who didn't give me space, and I didn't appreciate that. But when you love your spouse, you let them be their own person. You let them grow and evolve and change. And when you marry somebody and you've been married to them a long time, they will change. And you got to give them room to grow. And you need to encourage them to grow. And if you're determined that they be a certain way or they meet a certain criteria, that isn't love. Because love thrives in freedom, not coercion. I'm very tuned into Brent, and when I sense he wants some space, I back off. I don't feel threatened. I just back off. And we just communicate brain to brain. That's love. When you love someone, you respect their space. And you understand that just because they want to be alone, that doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means, ignore that, just means that's who they are. Being a fellow introvert, I understand, because I need my space too. I actually would not like it if Brent was on to me 24/7 all the time, like Loree McBride probably is with a lot of her lovers. I'm not a controlling person. In fact, my mother was telling me, you need to contact your son and give him advice about what to do about his life. I said, no, Mom, that's not the way I operate as a mother. I don't want to do that. I want to give my son freedom to follow his own path. I'm not going to try to control him. My mother's a narcissist. I am determined to give my son space. And I do. That's the way I am. INFPs are like that. We respect people who maybe want to separate from us, or you say, well, he never contacts you. That's cool. You know, I pray for him, and I only want him to be happy. I believe that I've been told by my men that he's actually tried to send me birthday cards and stuff, and that the Jesuits have sabotaged the mail and kept the cards from coming to me. But I'm happy as long as he's happy. But I do keep up with him. And if I think he's in trouble or something, I will contact my men and I'll say, can you please look out for my son? I think he's having some issues right now. But I never contact him. The reason I don't contact him is I don't want him to be harassed. I'm afraid that if I associate with him too much, that he's going to get harassed because I am such a target. So, you know, that's how I love. I give my child and my spouse space. I let them be who they want to be. I don't try to control them. I don't try to cage them. And I just back off, and I just communicate brain to brain with Brent a lot of times. He's always there brain to brain. Always. He's amazing. Always. But the feelings are always strong, sure, and constant. I know he loves me as much as Jesus does. Jesus even said that. And knowing that, I never feel deprived, never feel lonely, always feel at peace with a deep and abiding love between me and Brent. You know, if Loree McBride does not get right with God, she's going to lose her bodily shape, and she's going to burn in a body shaped. I know this from reading the Bible. I asked Jesus, I said, is it true that in the lake of fire that the human body is going to turn into a worm? And he said, yes, Gail, that is true. There are verses in I believe it's in Isaiah, where it says, where their worm dieth not, and they burn forever and ever. That is your future if you reject Jesus, folks. The lake of fire. Right now, there's nobody in the lake of fire. The first two to go in, and I know this from my Bible study, will be the Antichrist and the false prophet after the 7-year tribulation. And then they'll be the only ones in there for the whole 1,000-year reign. And then after the 1,000-year reign, Satan will join them, along with all the inhabitants of hell. Hell will literally be dumped into the lake of fire. And then every human being's going to have the shape of a worm. They're going to lose their bodily shape. It says it in the Bible. So, you know, you might say, oh, Loree McBride is so awful. She needs to be punished. She will be punished. If she doesn't get right with God, she's going to lose her bodily shape and will burn in a body shaped like a worm in the lake of fire for eternity. So just remember that when she starts bothering you and when her followers bother you, they're fools. They're fools. Bunch of jackasses, man. Their future's not very bright. They're stupid enough to follow Satan. I, on the other hand, will live in a mansion forever with Brent making love to me with Jesus Christ's own semen. Talk about a reward. How can anyone be sad or lonely with such a glorious future ahead of me? Loree has to settle for the wimpy Brent Spiner clone as her love partner. I'd rather die than make love to that wimpy clone. Gross! That Brent clone, and I've got a picture of him at the website. Check my page about this. He is the ugliest, most unattractive guy I've ever encountered. He could win the contest for the unsexiest man alive. I've noticed that when Brent and the Brent Spiner clone make love, they actually sent pictures of me of those two making love. They do it like animals. There's no heart, no soul, and they never look in each other's eyes. Loree has no idea what true love is. I've got a picture of the Brent Spiner clone, the wimpy clone, making love to Loree McBride at my website because they sent me that picture in 2011. Notice how they never look in each other's eyes. Loree and the gross and ugly Brent Spiner clone, they have no idea. She's dropping bombs. What true love is. You can keep the clone, Loree, and leave the real Brent and me alone. She's dropping those bombs. No, folks, that's not coronavirus. That's yeast. I've had these symptoms for years. We don't want you injecting your poison into our awesome love. I never feel apart from Brent. God, Jesus, get those stupid yeast out of the air. He is as much a part of me as my arms and legs, and our brain-to-brain communication brings me a lot of satisfaction. I share my thoughts with him freely throughout all my days. True love is a mating of souls, and Brent and I have mated our souls forever. Jesus Christ ordained our marriage, and you, Loree McBride, cannot sever the love that we have for each other, which is stronger than death. Unlike you, always competing with me, I feel no need to compete with you because Brent and I are so much a part of each other that you could never break that bond. And you are so different from us that you couldn't even come close to the love that we have for each other. I adore and cherish in Brent what you despise, his manliness, sensitivity, honor, and depth. You despise in Brent what he would die over. So I know he'd never want you. I never cared about his money, his fame, or his stardom. In fact, those were negatives to me. And I loved him in spite of his fame, pulling him out of the Hollywood cesspool and treasuring that purity of soul that he managed to maintain in spite of Hollywood leering its dirty fingers into his pure heart. I am more proud of Brent for studying at Dallas Theological Seminary and meeting with Jesus than for all his fame and money, which are useless drivel that we cannot carry into eternity. I'm convinced of that after studying Revelation. Jesus promised that Brent and I would marry in this present earth, as well as eternity. And Loree, when Jesus says something will happen, it will happen. And I believe it, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Because Jesus is always right. By the time Satan's finished with you, Loree McBride, all you will have is a worm body, probably making love to another worm body, burning in the hottest part of the lake of fire forever. You will lose your pretty face, your perfect figure, and all your beauty, and will be a writhing, burning worm forever. And maybe all the Loree clones will have a special section of the lake of fire reserved for them. After spending at least 1,000 years in hell, your burned body will be resurrected before the great white throne. Read Revelation 22, and afterwards, judgment. And God and Jesus will make a movie about your life for the whole universe to see. Loree, all your hidden sins are going to come out. And then they will pronounce the most severe judgment on you, throwing you. Yeah, there are degrees of punishment in hell, folks. Throwing you into the hottest part of the lake of fire. After you've been judged for your works, Loree, you're going to be thrown into the hottest part of the lake of fire to judge you. She meets with Satan, folks, at least once a week. For aligning with Satan and choosing worship of yourself over love in order to spread Satan's evil, pride, and hate. Come on, Loree McBride. Why don't you post a video of yourself so we can hear your voice and see you talking in a video? You need to check out the video on my webpage, folks, where she burned down a courtroom and killed some people. We want to be sure you don't have the same voice as the wacko murderer who claimed to be you at the Quebec 2011 trial where Judge Terrence Jenkins was there. Let's hear and see your voice, Loree McBride. Don't you want us to see that you're really with Brent Spiner? Let us hear you talking to him on a video to the whole world. Come on, Loree, show yourself. Let us see and hear you and see if that voice that you have matches the voice of that crazy wacko murderer that we had to execute at the 2011 Quebec trial. Are you the same person who set the courtroom on fire? And yeah, she also did some bombs too. You need to check out my link underneath this page. You can also hear Brent Spiner's voice in the video. It's at 12:56 in the video. Go check out my page, where he says that Loree McBride is the woman he's afraid of. You also hear the voice of Loree McBride. Isn't it kind of interesting that you can't ever find any video of Loree McBride talking anywhere? It's because she doesn't want you to know that she's that wacko lunatic that was at the 2011 Quebec trial. Yeah, I got video of that at my website. She doesn't want you to know that. That's why she hasn't made any videos with her voice in it and where she's talking like I'm doing right now. She doesn't want you to know that the Quebec trial 2011 really happened and that she really did set a courtroom on fire and that she really did bomb and kill thousands of people there. She killed about 25,000 people. None of this stuff gets reported. Don't worry, at the Great White Throne, it'll be reported big time, Loree McBride. The whole universe will see it on a huge, wide motion picture screen. God will see to it. You know, photographs can be photoshopped. They prove nothing nowadays. You have to take Jesuit UFO technology like cloning, ability to block internet communications, ability to corrupt data, etc. into consideration when examining evidence. The best evidence is my consistency versus Loree McBride's inconsistency. I don't change my story. She changes hers because she's a big liar. If Loree's so right about everything, how come she changes her story every year? UFO technology gives Loree tremendous power because it's not reported on in the news, and she can literally get away with murder. I have never asked for a photograph of any of my men on or off a spaceship because I know my men and know who they are and prefer brain-to-brain communications to a picture. Besides, I'm not big into physical attractive stuff anyways. Satan invented the computer, and it's possible that even if my men wanted to give me a photo, Satan could block it. Anyone who relies primarily on photos for evidence is living in a 19th century world, not taking into account UFO technology. The UFO inhabitants are Satan's fallen angels. I am certain that plenty of video coverage of my men inside the Church of Gale spaceship has been reported on at the Gabriel Chana Fox News Channel 00 on cable. In fact, Gabriel Chana Fox News broadcasts directly from the Church of Gale spaceship. I think they're up at the very top. The circumstantial evidence that I'm not crazy and I'm telling the truth is obvious to any honest person with an IQ of 120 or higher. For instance, my YouTube video views are actually in the millions. I've got some evidence that Loree McBride and YouTube are manipulating my YouTube views. Go check the link underneath this video. I have one picture there where my views were about 28,635. This was on February 5th, 2018. And then 3 minutes later at YouTube, same video, my views were about 353. About 5 minutes later at YouTube. Discrepancy there. If Loree can manipulate my views, what would stop her from keeping my men from sending me photos if they wanted to? She screens out the commentators so that I only get the commentators she wants me to get. I have actually seen comments just disappear from my page. Somebody's taken them out. I've seen them. Like I'll see them in the YouTube section where they show the new comments, and then they just vanish. They just vanish. I didn't do it. They're just gone. Something's going on there. Satan is working with Loree McBride, and Satan invented the computer and the internet. So, that's his forte. And, one day on July 29, 2019, the real Brent Spiner had control over his Twitter. And I have a screenshot of that. If you'll notice, the jokes are actually funny on that day because the Brent Spiner clone takes himself far too seriously. If the clone was in charge, he would have eliminated the commentator who said, "Get Gail on the show." Yeah, this was at Brent Spiner's official Twitter. Well, the next day they took him off. Brent only had it for about a day. And Zach Knight, ex-Jesuit leader, ex-Antichrist, when he left Satan and came to Jesus and my side, he lost his internet supremacy. Loree McBride took down even Zach Knight's Twitter in 2018. Satan invented the computer, folks. The real Brent Spiner opened up a Twitter account called Brent Spiner at Brent Spiner MD as his real self, not the lying self that Loree extorted him into. It only lasted about 4 months. I have a screenshot of that. The Brent Spiner clone took down the real Brent's Twitter on February 2nd, 2018, because I wished the real Brent a happy birthday on his Twitter that day. Oh, he has the evidence now that the clone, that this person who claims to be Brent Spiner is a troll and impersonating me, and they need to be taken down. And Twitter listened to the stupid clone. Twitter is just, they've gone to the dogs, man. I think Loree McBride's totally taken them over. That's why they've gone to the dogs. No freedom of speech there anymore. They've turned into the platform for the idiots. The idiot retweets and all that. Any dork out there living in the 19th century who thinks photographic evidence alone establishes truth should check out some of Loree's photographic hucksterism. Check out my webpage. I've got screenshots of where it's so obvious she did Photoshop to put her and Brent together. In fact, Brent tells me that all the photos of him looking happy with her in the 1990s and afterwards is all Photoshop. He can't stand her. There was even a fan who wrote about Brent Spiner appearing with Loree McBride in Minneapolis, Minnesota, July 1993 at a Star Trek creation convention. I never went to them. I always thought they were stupid. He was a nervous wreck, Brent was, with Loree there. Let me see what it says here. That's not what happened. Brent seemed real, very genuine, vulnerable. This was 1993. Even a little fragile. Sitting up close, let me pick up interesting nuances. He looked nervous, apprehensive. He kept looking for reassurance to a very sharp California blonde. That was Loree McBride that came with him. Yeah, Brent tells me she flew with him on the flights. He was ordered to appear with her because she went to Paramount and said that he had sex with her, and they ordered him to appear with her in public as a girlfriend, or else they would trash his reputation as a rapist to the world. And so that's how she got into his life. She drug raped him. I expected Brent to be more distanced. I can't have it. Safer. Instead, I sat right in the center of the front row, got copious quantities of eye contact, and saw that the poor thing was terrified. Yeah, he was terrified of Loree McBride. She tried to make it sound like he was terrified of the fans, but he was terrified of Loree McBride. He's told. I asked him about that. He said, "Well, I knew what she would do to me once I got back on the plane and once we were headed back home. She stalked him, and she was terrible, man. She's put him into the emergency room many times, and he's had stitches because of her. And this Star Trek fan, this was 1993, and now I'm going online, and Loree McBride is putting up sites that say this. Brent Spiner is married to producer Loree McBride. They were married in 2001. Before the wedding, they dated each other for a year. Together, they welcomed their first and only son, Jackson Spiner, on the 29th of June, 2002. Oh my God. She's been what a bunch of crap. Loree McBride started her career as Brent Spiner's stalker in September 1992. You should watch Fistful of Datas and look how traumatized he was while she was drug raping him. Oh yeah, that's a bunch of crap. Regarding Jackson, the Jesuits already got Brent Spiner's sperm from the drug rape in 1992, and they had it. They can keep sperm alive forever. They've got UFO technology and bioengineering labs and everything, cloning, and they finally decided to impregnate Loree using artificial insemination. It's funny they did it right after 9/11 when I decided to go to Vladimir Putin, because Brent actually tried to board a jet on 9/11, 2001 to come out to Florida, I think to buy a home in Daytona Beach to be with me. And he was about to do that, and then 9/11 happened. Huh. So he said, well, I guess it's not a good idea for me to be boarding any jets on September the 11th, 2001. Oh, yeah. Those Jesuits will move heaven and earth to make sure Brent Spiner never gets near me or marries me. Oh, yeah. And then Loree actually blew up one of her clones in a car and laughed at Brent and said, that was Gail. I just killed her. And Brent started crying. And then Brent said, oh, no, it was just my clone. But I'm just letting you know what I'll do if you dare to try to claim Gail as your wife, Brent. So he knew the bitch meant business. That's how she kept him in line, by stuff like that. She would kill her own followers as a message to Brent, like, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to kill Gail. I'll blow up her car. You say, oh, you should be worried about their car. My men tell me they've got the car at under Church of Gail surveillance 24/7, so maybe they took the radio out. I've got a picture of the Brent Spiner clone. He's got a bigger nose than the real Brent Spiner in this picture. But the clone may be doctoring some online Brent Spiner photos to make the noses appear similar, but compare them in the picture that I've got at the website. And also notice the contrasting personalities. The real Brent is a thoughtful, deep INFJ introvert. It's obvious the Brent Spiner clone is a Myers-Briggs extrovert. I can't imagine that clone ever being nervous at a Star Trek convention like Brent was. You might say, well, he was nervous about Loree McBride. Yes, but he was also an introvert, and he thought it was stupid to go to conventions and play this dumb game. He didn't like exposing his private life to the world. The INFJs don't like it because they're usually misunderstood. So it was a blend of being horrified of Loree McBride as his companion on these trips out to the Star Trek conventions, plus the fact that he's an introvert, an INFJ, and didn't really enjoy the convention scene. But he ended up getting over it. But when Brent Spiner sang time after time, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine the clone singing this. I just can't imagine it. Can you imagine the clone singing this? Huh? No way. No way, Jose. The real Brent Spiner made that song for me in 1990 and 1991. Can you imagine that extrovert, shallow, dorky clone singing that song like that? I think he's incapable of singing it that way. He doesn't have any depth. He's shallow. He's a dorky extrovert. Anybody who would enjoy making love to Loree McBride has got to be a shallow, absolutely horrible in bed person. Loree McBride gets an orgasm when she has violent sex and she's torturing animals and cats and stuff like that while she's making love. She has group orgies where everybody's in there, and it's disgusting. There's no true intimacy, no emotional intimacy. No, she doesn't care about bonding emotionally with her partners. All she wants is a violent rape fest with blood and feces going all over the place. That's what she orgasms over, and the Brent Spiner clone likes it. He's really gross. You know, the story in Brent Spiner's CD, Dreamland, parallels the true story in my book, The Forbidden Abyss, Part 1. And a movie that I made, Brent Spiner's Rape, reveals the identity of the strange woman in Brent Spiner's CD, Dreamland. That strange woman was Loree McBride, who ended up in Brent's bed. Where Brent, in Dreamland, he says, "Oh, who are you? How did you get here?" That was Loree McBride. He was dropping hints. You ought to listen to his Dreamland CD. You know, when I listened to his CD called Dreamland, I realized that I have very strong circumstantial evidence from Dreamland. I now have proof in the form of very strong circumstantial evidence that the real Brent Spiner's been in my life since 1990. You know, I wrote my book, The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, and to write it, I researched primarily from a copy of my online correspondence with Brent Spiner, Vladimir Putin, Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Jackman, Judge Terrence Jenkins, Jesus Christ, and Gerard Butler, my memoir that I wrote around 2005 was part of the research, and just my memories from 1990 to now, and then Judge Terrence Jenkins' YouTube channel's recording of the Quebec August 2011 trial, which was a showdown between me and Loree McBride. You know, when you listen to that video, you can hear Brent's voice in there. It's a tenor voice. It matches exactly the voice of his singing. You can, when he said, "Loree McBride," he said it with a tenor voice. When we were asking him, "Who scares you, Brent?" He said, "Loree McBride." He said it just like that. You can hear the voice, Brent Spiner's voice, right there in the video. He was in the courtroom. He was crying when he said it, and he ran away because Loree hit him over the head with a 16-inch dildo that she pulled out of her pocket. This is UFO technology, folks. Using advanced Jesuit technology, that voice and wail is an exact match to tenor-voiced Brent Spiner. So, through 4 sources, my Forbidden Abyss Part 1 came into being. And the funny thing is, I never even thought about using the Dreamland storyline for the book. That's because I wanted my book to be factual, and Brent used a lot of imagination for the story he wrote for Dreamland, which is a story based on his relationship with me. However, I also realized that even though the Dreamland story was in many ways imagination, there were some uncanny coincidental similarities between the Dreamland story and my true story about my relationship with Brent in my nonfiction novel, The Forbidden Abyss, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin. I made that into an audiobook, by the way. In fact, the similarities between the story in Dreamland and the story in my nonfiction novel, The Forbidden Abyss Part 1, or The Forbidden Abyss, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin, are so many that I have decided just to go all out and state that the 2 stories are one and the same. This is proof that I have the real Brent Spiner in my life. Brent told his story the only way he could in 2007 through Dreamland. In 2007, Brent and I were very strong brain-to-brain lovers. In fact, I had just reinstated Brent Spiner as my primary brain-to-brain lover in February 2006. And about a year later, 2007, with Brent and I still going strong brain-to-brain, Brent decided to make Dreamland to honor me. I asked Brent why he mentioned Loree and her son Jackson on the Dreamland cover in very teeny print on the back. And he said that Loree threatened to kill me if he would not mention her name somewhere on the album. So he mentions her in very small print inside the cover with her son. Loree also forced him to mention her in public as he promoted his album. It's obvious that he did so very reluctantly. He's always been worried that the Jesuits will kill me if he doesn't do what his boss, Loree, tells him to do, which may explain why both Brent and I's writings often deal with death themes. Our writings reflect the fact that Jesuits are obsessed with killing both Brent and myself. Dreamland was released in 2008, and I didn't have the internet in 2008, so I didn't know about Dreamland until I got the internet in 2010. I ordered Dreamland in 2010. Brent kept some brain-to-brain secrets from me from 2006 when I reinstated him as my primary brain-to-brain lover, and I learned about them in 2010 when I got the internet. He did not let me know that Loree McBride claimed that she had Brent's son in 2002. I actually thought she died. I thought she was dead because I'd heard brain to brain that she blew herself up or something like that. Nor did I know that Brent had made another music album. I knew he made Oh Yellow Eyes Is Back for Me, but I didn't know he made another music album for me until 2010. The last that I knew about Loree McBride was I thought she killed herself in July 2001 when Loree McBride actually blew up one of her clones inside of a car with a bomb. Loree did this, like I said, to intimidate Brent because in 2001, Brent was trying to marry me. The Jesuits played on my ignorance that Loree was, actually still alive. Loree has hundreds of clones, and impregnated one of Loree's many clones with Brent's stolen semen from her 1992 rape of him. The daily brain-to-brain communications between me and Brent from 2006 to 2008 centered around lovemaking and dealing with day-to-day Jesuit problems in my life. I always knew that Loree McBride obtained her relationship with Brent through some sort of drug rape, as evidenced by a short story that I wrote for Brent in 2000 called Emerald Towers. And I'll have links. If you go to the page underneath this video, there are links to all this, which I submitted to the Writer's Digest short story writing competition in May 2000. More than likely, Writer's Digest did not receive what I wrote, but probably received a Jesuit doctored and inferior counterfeit version of Emerald Towers. Nevertheless, Emerald Towers reveals that I was aware in 2000 that Loree obtained her relationship with Brent through some type of extortion and rape. I've always believed since December 1999, when Jesus told me that Loree was a Vatican agent, that Loree used some sort of drug rape on Brent. I hinted at this drug rape in my 2000 short story, Emerald Towers. I'll have a link to that underneath this video. I didn't want to go all out and call it a drug rape in 2000 because I feared Writer's Digest may not publish my story. But the story I wrote strongly hints that Loree McBride drug raped Brent Spiner, which is what I believed in 2000. As you can see, I'm consistent. Loree changes her story. I'm always consistent. I never change my story because I'm telling the truth. Zach Knight, when he was bad, lied at his website, crazygale.com. That website's now been taken down. That I got the idea of drug rape through Brent's album, Dreamland. That's absurd. Then that reveals to what extent the Jesuits will lie to discredit the evidence in Brent's Dreamland that Brent and I thought of the same story for our works. So good news is Zach Knight has come to my side after I led him to the true Jesus in September 2016. But I'm the one who thought of the Dreamland story first in 2000 with my Emerald Towers. And the real Brent agreed with my story through his storyline in Dreamland. What I wrote in 2000 in Emerald Towers and what Brent wrote in 2007 in Dreamland are one and the same. This is proof that I have the real Brent in my life. Loree McBride is married to the Jesuit clone of the real Brent Spiner, who had the audacity to make a video in August 2012 contradicting what the real Brent Spiner wrote about me in Dreamland. This video of the Brent Spiner clone claiming he never knew me is going rabid on the Jesuit-controlled internet, despite the fact that the real Brent took the clone to court for this and had him executed. Zach Knight was a powerful computer genius. Loree McBride has taken his place, and they've cloned the entire internet and replaced it with a Jesuit lying version, which makes it appear that Loree is the wife of the real Brent. Sadly, Jesuits have created other clones of Brent since then. Loree clones have also been executed since Loree lost her case to me in 2011 at the Quebec trial. Another Loree case lost her case to me again in 2012 as she attempted to stop me from publishing The Forbidden Abyss Part 1 or Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin. But Jesuit clones are like cockroaches. They show up everywhere. Circumstantial evidence points strongly to the fact that, as crazy as it seems, I tell the truth. My life story in Emerald Towers and The Forbidden Abyss, Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin, is consistent with Brent's story in Dreamland. Proof that the real Brent exists in my life. And here's something that Brent even admitted that he's not married to Loree McBride. 45 minutes and 28 seconds into Brent's 2008 Dave Rabbit radio interview, Brent nervously said this about Loree McBride. My girlfriend has this, I call her that because we can never think of anything else to call each other since we're not married. We've been together forever. She really gets irritated with me if there's even the hint of being surly when somebody comes up and says something nice to me or recognizes me. She really has no patience with me rolling my eyes or anything. She doesn't get it. I like being an actor, but being a celebrity is a whole other thing. You never get quite used to being treated as if you're something special. She really doesn't have any patience for that whatsoever, and she lectures me and says, you should be really happy that people recognize you. And he's made Willing and Knowing Love from 1994 or whatever, or now she's saying from 2000, to Loree McBride, to a publicist. She claimed to be a publicist back then. No legally valid public government records indicate Brent Spiner is married to Loree McBride. So why all these Jesuit websites that claim they're married? Well, under my conspiracy law, we differentiate between clones and the authentic person. So her marriage certificate to the Brent Spiner clone is a marriage certificate to the Brent Spiner clone, not to the real Brent Spiner. So she doesn't have a legally valid public government record of marriage to the real Brent Spiner. The real Brent Spiner, not his clone, does not feel he's married to Loree. So I've got the full 2008 Dave Rabbit interview of Brent Spiner. That was the real Brent Spiner there. Unfortunately, most of the public appearances that you see of Brent now are the clone. And the clone also did the acting in Star Trek Picard, by the way. I've never seen that, so I don't know if it's good or bad, but I do know that the clone did the acting in Star Trek Picard, but it is the real Patrick Stewart in there. I'm not really big into Hollywood, believe it or not. I know that may sound amazing with all these Hollywood guys. It was never my goal in life to have a bunch of Hollywood celebrities on my marriage list, by the way. I don't give a flip about that stuff. You know, there's a really nice guy that I made friends with who back in 2012 thought I was crazy, but he sides with me, Nathaniel. He asked the Brent Spiner clone at a Star Trek convention about Gail. There's this woman named Gail Korchuler who's become somewhat of an internet meme by devoting this crazy YouTube channel to you. I'm wondering if you've ever heard of her. The Brent clone looks away with a snide expression on his face, which is the total opposite of the real Brent. And if you have a response to her claims and so forth, Nathaniel asked. The Brent clone answered, seemingly proud of the fact that he's a celebrity and I'm not. Well, you know, nobody here knows what you're talking about except for you. And clone has this look on his face as he says this, and he's glad this question came up. Here's his chance to show how famous he is and how proud he is of that stark contrast to the real Brent in the above paragraph, with the Dave Rabbit interview, and what a nobody Gail is. so I'd be glad to answer you privately about that. But I do know about it. It's only been going on for about 22 years, and I've never met her or spoken to her. The clone flails his hands about as if enjoying this opportunity to mention me. The total opposite to the very private Brent above. She has a very rich fantasy life, and God bless her. This clone has a personality that is vain, shallow, and seems to love the spotlight, poking fun at me for being a nobody, which is a stark contrast to the down-to-earth and humble and real Brent Spiner in the Brent Spiner 2008 Dave Rabbit radio interview. You know, Brent he warned me actually about the clone's YouTube video before I even saw it. This is what he said. He said, I know there are some people that think you're crazy, and you know I would never tell you to do anything you didn't want to do. But like I told you, Brent and I, we give each other space. But my advice to you would be to exercise your freedom of speech and not be afraid to censor yourself online. Maybe you should lay low in public with doctors and employers so as not to draw attention in the wrong places. But I don't think it should matter what you write about and express on a personal website or even a video channel. That is your individual right, and it's nobody else's business, because everyone is entitled to their own opinions and beliefs. Furthermore, you have a lot of supporters and followers who don't think you are crazy at all, and they want to know the truth. The information you present online is a take it or leave it deal. People don't have to believe it, but if they sincerely examine the facts, they might just find out their perceptions have been misguided. Rather than being more vague on the subjects being doubted, maybe you should simply present more evidence and back up your claims with the facts and personal experiences. Nobody can fault you for that. You're like the Galileo of our times, my wife. You'll have haters, but in the end, I feel that if you stick to what you really believe, you'll come out on top. Anyway, as your husband, that is just my advice. I will always support you no matter what you do. And then Brent wrote an email to me on August 29, 2012. Dear Gail, wow, that's insane. Oh, by the way, Brent Spiner never goes on Reddit. Neither do I. Well, we despise Reddit because the clone went on Reddit and mentioned me there and said I was crazy. So Brent, the real Brent, and I never use Reddit. Reddit is a garbage site. Dear Gail, wow, that's insane. I've never even been to Reddit. This is August 29, 2012. I just looked into this and found out that the Jesuits have just uploaded a video of my clone to their YouTube channel as well. I suspect this has everything to do with the movie that was Brent Spiner's rape you are making. It's making us look far too credible. As a precaution, I would be very careful about any strange emails or messages you might receive during this time. I am sure you know what to do. I care for your safety. I think it would be a wonderful idea to make a video about what happened in the 1990s when Paramount Studios sent you that letter saying to never write me again. I think you should start back from the beginning with your son and the social worker you talked to, and how your ex later ignited the situation by writing a nasty letter to the studio. The story is an emotionally moving one, and to be honest, I don't think there's much more I can add. Especially since our current state of affairs speaks for itself, I'm still writing to you. It was Paramount Studios, not I, that sent you the letter. As you noticed, I didn't even sign my name. The studio acted on my behalf without my permission in an attempt to keep our love apart. You already know full well how deep they were willing to go when they allowed Loree McBride to enter the studio and repeatedly rape me. It was indeed I, my darling, who made love to you with sweet longings over the phone, caressing you with my voice as your written words caressed my soul. Your husband, Brent Spiner.